Welcome to the Ramayana, stories of dharma and devotion. I'm Sandeep, your storyteller, guiding you through the timeless epic of Valmiki's Ramayana, rooted in ancient tradition and illuminated by countless retellings across India's sacred soil. This narration brings to life a tale where devotion meets destiny and courage is born from love. In our previous episode, Hanuman, brave son of Anjani and the soul of unwavering devotion, returned from Lanka, his mission fulfilled. He brought back not only the precious news of Sita's safety, but also her message of love and her jewel of remembrance for Ram. He recounted every step of his journey, the tests he overcame, the warriors he defeated, the fire he lit in Golden City, and the courage of Sita, who shone brighter than ever in her suffering. With fire behind him and purpose ahead, Hanuman returned to Mount Mahendra to the roaring welcome of his fellow Vanars. In this episode, the Vanar Sena celebrates, not with pride, but with the heartfelt joy of a mission accomplished. But even as they rejoice, the weight of destiny pulls them onward. For Hanuman carries more than a message. He carries Sita's love, her courage, and her final plea. When he finally stands before Ram, words turn to tears. Hanuman narrates Sita's suffering, her undying faith, and her message of hope and despair. As Ram clutches her jewel and listens to every word, the mighty warrior trembles. His voice breaks, his heart mourns. But through that anguish, something unshakable rises, resolve. The fire Hanuman lit in Lanka now burns in Ram's eyes. Join me now as the message of Sita reaches not only Kishkindha, but the soul of Ram himself, and as the path to war, justice, and reunion begins to unfold.
As the vines shifted gently over Kishkindha's forests, a lone figure streaked through the skies, Dadhimukh, guardian of Sugriva's sacred Madhuvan grove, still bruised from the reckless joy of his fellow Vanars. His heart was agitated, his pride wounded, but behind his distress was a deeper current. Something extraordinary had stirred the monkeys into such a frenzy. Descending from the clouds like a storm-weary bird, Dadhimukh landed near the royal encampment, where Sugriva sat in council with Ram and Lakshman. He bowed low, pressing his head to the feet of the monkey king. "O noble Sugriva," he cried, "forgive my urgency. But Madhuvan, the grove sacred to your lineage, has been overrun." Sugriva raised a calm but curious brow. "Rise, Dadhimukh. Tell us plainly, what has happened?" Dadhimukh's voice trembled with righteous frustration as he recounted the scene. Never before, not even in Bali's reign, was Madhuvan touched without permission. Yet today, Hanuman, Angad, and their followers stormed in like conquerors. They drank the honey, trampled the groves, and when my guards resisted, they were beaten, bruised by teeth and nails, tossed like leaves in a storm. Ram and Lakshman turned to Sugriva, awaiting his judgment. But the Vanar king's eyes softened into a knowing smile. Sugriva said, "O Lakshman, do you hear the joy hidden in this chaos? Had they returned empty-handed, no Vanar would dare touch Madhuvan, let alone attack its keepers. This exuberance, this wild revelry, can only mean one thing: Devi Sita has been found." Lakshman's eyes lit up, and Ram leaned forward, his breath halting with hope. Sugriva continued, his voice firm with conviction. "If anyone could have found her, it is Hanuman, the swiftest, wisest, and most devoted among us. With Angad, Tara, and Jambavan at his side, success was inevitable." Then, turning back to Dadhimukh, Sugriva said warmly, "You are loyal, and you did your duty. But pardon others. Their hearts are not arrogant, only overjoyed. Now go, and bring Hanuman, Angad, and the others here swiftly. For we are eager to hear from the ones who carry our destiny in their words." As Dadhimukh turned to leave, the atmosphere in the grove shifted. Ram's face, once clouded by grief, now shimmered with cautious anticipation. His fingers clenched, unconsciously tightening around the thought of Sita, so near, perhaps just hours away in word if not yet in form. Sugriv looked upon Ram and Lakshman and said gently, "Their return nears, and with it, the wheel of Dharm turns again." And the vines of Kishkindha carried a new scent of reunion, of war, and of righteousness rising. Back in Madhuvan, the sacred grove now quiet after the revelry, Angad and the Vanars were gathering their strength when a familiar voice called out. Dadhimukh, no longer flustered, but now smiling humbly, approached the crown prince with folded hands. "O noble Angad," he said gently, "we wronged you in our haste. Please forgive the guards. They acted out of duty, not defiance. I have returned after Sugriv's command. He holds no anger. On the contrary, hearing of your return, he is overjoyed. He asks that you, Hanuman, and all the mighty Vanars come to him at once." Angad, ever the thoughtful leader, turned to his companions. "Ram's heart waits. We have fulfilled our vow. Let us waste no more time here." With that, like thunder rolling through the skies, the Vanar Sena leapt into the air, their silhouettes streaking across the heavens like blazing comets. Birds scattered, clouds trembled, and the wind itself seemed to follow their trail. At Kishkindha, Sugriv was waiting eagerly with Ram and Lakshman. Ram, though a quiet confidence stirred in his heart, turned to Sugriv with searching eyes and asked, "Sugriv, tell me, can it truly be? Has Sita been found?" Sugriv nodded, his gaze steady. "Yes, Ram, I have no doubt. Look at the joy with which they return." Had they failed, Angad would have come with a lowered gaze, not with such unbridled celebration. And none would have dared to touch the grove of our ancestors unless their hearts were overflowing with triumph. A flicker of hope deepened in Ram's eyes. Sugriv added, "And if any Vanar could have achieved this, it is Hanuman. His courage knows no bounds, and his devotion burns steady like a sacred flame." Just then, a jubilant chorus echoed from the sky. The Vanars had arrived. With Angad and Hanuman at the forefront, they descended before their king and their lord. The earth trembled beneath their mighty landing. The scent of honey still clung to them, mingling with the electric air of revelation. Hanuman, eyes shining with purpose, bowed low before Ram, his voice steady yet reverent. "O Ram," he said softly, "I have seen Devi Sita. She lives. She is waiting for you. Her body is safe, her spirit unshaken. Her thoughts, every moment, are only of you." The words fell like sacred rain upon parched earth. Ram's eyes welled with tears, not of sorrow, but release. His shoulders, long burdened, seemed to rise. Lakshman placed a steadying hand on his brother's arm, but his own gaze was misted. Ram stepped forward and cupped Hanuman's shoulders. No words passed between them in that instant, only the silent embrace of trust, of divine friendship, of a promise fulfilled. Nearby, Sugriv's heart swelled with pride, and even the stoic Lakshman exhaled a breath he did not know he was holding. Hanuman had done more than cross an ocean. He had delivered hope back into the heart of Ram. Ram, full of emotions, asked softly, his voice weighted with both hope and fear, "Where is Sita? How is she? Does she remember me still?" All eyes turned to Hanuman. Jambavan, Angad, and the others stepped back slightly, allowing the one who bore the message to speak. Hanuman bowed deeply in the direction of Lanka, as if touching Sita's feet across space, and then turned to Ram. Hanuman began, "O Ram, with your name in my heart, I crossed the ocean and entered Lanka, the city of demons. After a long and painful search, I found her. Underneath a massive tree, in the heart of Ashok Vatika, sat Devi Sita, frail in body but unbroken in spirit. Her face is pale, her limbs thin, her garments soiled, and her only adornment is grief, but her love for you shines brighter than 1,000 suns." Ram's breath caught. Hanuman's voice grew softer. She is guarded day and night by cruel ogresses, who hurl threats and try to break her resolve. But they cannot. She turns her face away from Ravan, endures their torment, and thinks only of you. Silence fell. Even the wind paused. Hanuman continued, "She wept when I spoke of you and of your alliance with Sugriv. She feared a trick until I showed her your ring." Hanuman gently reached into the fold of his cloth and brought forth a gleaming jewel, Sita's head ornament, entrusted to him with her prayers. The jewel caught the sunlight and shimmered like a tear suspended in time. Hanuman continued, holding it toward Ram, "She gave me this to give to you. She said, 'Let my Ram see this and know that I am still waiting. Let him remember the mark he once painted on my cheek at Chitrakoot with powder from a red stone. Let him remember me.'" Ram took the jewel into his hands, and his arms trembled. For a long moment, he said nothing. His fingers curled around it, and he brought it gently to his forehead. Tears welled in his eyes, not of weakness, but of love that had endured beyond separation, pain, and even the fear of death. Hanuman continued softly, "She asked me to tell you. She will wait no more than 2 months. After that, if you do not come, she will not remain in Ravan's grasp, nor in this world." Lakshman clenched his fists, jaw tight with fury. Sugriv lowered his gaze, respectful and still. Then Hanuman spoke her last words. She said, "Let Ram come. Let him build a bridge if needed. But let him come for love, for dharma, for the world itself." Ram stood silent, the jewel in his palm, the weight of his beloved's words echoing through his soul. Then he looked at Hanuman, not as a Vanar, not even as a warrior, but as the very embodiment of faith, of service, of love in its purest form. Ram said, "O Hanuman, what can I give you in return for what you have brought me? You crossed the ocean with my name and returned with my heart." The Vanars around them were silent, awestruck. Even the birds overhead seemed to pause in flight. And then Ram turned toward the sea. He said, "Sita waits. The time for words has ended. Now begins the time for action." Ram then stood still, his heart stirred, his hands trembling as he held Sita's head jewel close to his chest. The weight of that tiny ornament, once nestled in the hair of his beloved, now carried the weight of oceans, demons, and immeasurable grief. Lakshman stood silently by his side, eyes lowered, fists clenched, not from helplessness, but from the ache of witnessing his brother's sorrow. Ram pressed the jewel tighter to his heart, as though by doing so he might feel Sita's warmth through it. Tears streamed down his cheeks, not in despair, but in love too profound for words. He turned to Sugriv, his voice choked but was steady when he said, "O noble Sugriv, this jewel. This was a gift from King Janak, my father-in-law, when Sita first came into my life as my bride. And it was gifted to him long ago by Indra himself. It is the jewels of the heavens, now smeared with the dust of sorrow. Seeing it now, I feel as though I have glimpsed not only Sita, but her father Janak, and even my own father, Dashrath." He paused, then added softly, "This jewel rested on her head, and now it rests in my hand. Through it, I see her face. I see her eyes. I see her pain." Ram's voice quivered, and he turned again to Hanuman, his eyes desperate now, not for battle, not for vengeance, but for the solace of her words. He pleaded, "Hanuman, speak again. Tell me what she said. Let me hear her voice through yours. Let your words fall upon me like cool water on parched earth. This jewel has touched her, but her words live in you. Speak again and again. I am thirsting, and your words are the only elixir that can sustain me." He looked down at the jewel once more, and he continued, "To see this jewel without seeing her, it wounds deeper than any arrow. I cannot bear another moment without knowing her words. Tell me, Hanuman, tell me how she survives among those demons, she who is so modest, so soft, so gentle. How does my moon-faced Sita endure the shadows of Lanka?" Ram closed his eyes, pain etched on his noble features, and added with trembling lips, "Tell me, what did my beloved say? What were the words that crossed her lips? The same lips that once smiled beside me at Chitrakoot that whispered prayers into the wind of exile? Let me hear her again, Hanuman. Let your voice become hers. For in her words, I shall find the will to breathe again. As Ram waited to listen to Hanuman's voice, the jewel for the head remained pressed against his heart, as if it alone held the warmth of Sita's touch. Hanuman, still bowing before him, began to recount the tale Sita had chosen as her token of remembrance, a tale of intimacy and long-forgotten tenderness. Hanuman said softly, O Ram, Devi Sita recalled that time in Chitrakoot, when you both lived in quiet exile. One morning, as you slept in her lap, a crow descended and began to torment her. It pecked her breast, drawing blood. She bore the pain so as not to disturb your rest. But eventually, the pain overcame her, and she woke you. Ram's eyes darkened with memory, and a muscle twitched at his jaw. Hanuman continued, You rose, saw the blood, saw the crow, and from a mere blade of grass, summoned a Brahmastra, charging it with your righteous fury. The crow fled, flying across all three worlds, but none, not even divine Indra, could protect it. At last, the crow returned and fell at your feet, seeking mercy. Though you could not withdraw the missile, you showed compassion. You let it live, taking only one of its eyes. Ram's hands trembled as Hanuman continued. Sita said, Why then, O Ram, do you not use such arrows now? Why do you, who once defended me from a mere bird, now stay silent while I suffer among demons? Each word from Hanuman fell like thunder in Ram's chest. Hanuman gently continued. She asked, Why you and Lakshman, who are as radiant as the sun and the fire, as mighty as the wind and the storm, have not come to her aid yet? She questioned herself whether some past sin was keeping you both from her. Ram lowered his eyes. Tears streamed down Lakshman's face now too, his heart burning at the idea that Sita might ever doubt their love or commitment. Hanuman continued with strength now rising in his voice, but I assured her that her Ram has not forgotten her, that grief has only deepened his resolve, that her words would be the flame that reignites the fury of Dharma. And I told her, Ram will come. Ram will burn Lanka to the ground. Ram will return her to Ayodhya. Hanuman paused, his own eyes moist. After some moment, Hanuman said, and then, as I prepared to leave, her voice cracked with emotion. She asked me to greet you, Lakshman and Sugriv. She asked me to bring you her tears. And she asked me, No, she pleaded, that you come soon, that you save her not only from the ogresses, but from the storm of despair. Silence fell for a moment. Then Hanuman concluded, She survives only because of her faith in you. And she endures, my lord, not for herself, but to uphold your name, your dharma, and the hope that love, true love, is never abandoned. As Hanuman spoke, his voice was steady, but brimming with the weight of his journey. Ram, Lakshman, and Sugriv listened with breathless attention. The fire in Ram's chest that had flickered with anguish now flared anew with purpose, each word from Hanuman a spark reigniting the flame of resolve. Hanuman continued, O Ram, even as I prepared to take leave, Devi Sita, graceful in suffering, yet unshaken in spirit, called out to me again. Her voice was soft but urgent, her words filled with pain, trust, and a plea wrapped in devotion. Hanuman's gaze grew distant, as though still in that Ashok Vatika beneath the shadow of Lanka's sorrow. She said, Tell my beloved Ram that I beg him, not just to find me, but to destroy this evil. Let him burn Lanka and all its cruelty to ash. Let the world see that dharma will never bow to adharma. Ram's fists clenched, but his eyes stayed locked on Hanuman, each syllable falling into his soul like rain on scorched earth, while Hanuman continued, Devi Sita, though desperate to be free, fears being taken back in secrecy, she wishes for your victory to be complete, for the world to know that Ravan did not succeed, that the wife of Ram was taken by trickery, but reclaimed by justice. Lakshman's jaw tightened. Sugriv's brow furrowed with focus. And Hanuman went on, now echoing Sita's deepest worry. Hanuman said gently, she doubted, not your strength, but the sheer possibility of crossing the vast ocean. How can an army of monkeys and bears leap such a distance? She asked me. Only Garud, Vayu, or you, O Hanuman, could achieve such a feat. Ram's face darkened not in anger, but in understanding. Sita had not doubted him. She had simply not yet seen the might of his allies. Hanuman said with calm confidence, I told her that she need not worry, that Sugriv commands legions of Vanars who, like me, fly through the skies, leap over mountains, and tear through foes with the fury of thunderclouds. Many are my equals, some greater. In Sugriv's services are warriors who have circled the globe. What I did alone, others can do together, faster, fiercer. Hanuman then told Ram, moved by her sorrow, I folded my hands and offered to carry her away from Lanka on my back. Come with me, I said. I shall leap across the ocean, and in moments you will be reunited with Ram. Let your suffering end today. But Devi Sita, though weary and worn, refused. She said, No, Hanuman. Though my heart longs for Ram, I cannot leave this place except by his hands. He must defeat Ravan in battle and reclaim me in truth and dharma. I am Ram's by love, by law, and by destiny. Let the world see that righteousness still lives. Hanuman's voice quivered slightly, even in its strength. O Ram, her body may be bound in a Shokvatika, but her soul stands with you already, wrapped in the fire of faith. Hanuman's voice grew stronger, firmer as he continued. I told her that Ram and Lakshman would not come as fugitives or wanderers, but as a rising sun and a roaring storm, that they would stand at the gates of Lanka, and the city would tremble. He paused, then added gently, and I told her that soon she would no longer hear the jeers of ogresses, but the war cries of lions. That soon she would stand beside you, Ram, on the throne of Ayodhya, crowned not only by victory, but by truth. Ram lowered his head. The jewel still rested in his palm, but his heart was already on the battlefield. Hanuman said, She believed me, Ram. She let go of her fear, for my words were yours. And as I turned to leave, her last words to me were prayers. For you, for Lakshman, for Sugriv, for every Vanar. But above all, for your swift arrival. Tears welled again in Ram's eyes, but this time they flowed not from grief, but from love and a rekindled fire of duty. He said softly, She has waited long enough. Now Lanka shall hear my answer. Ram, overwhelmed, closed his eyes and whispered, Sita. The sky above Prasravana darkened slightly with clouds, not of rain, but of the storm gathering in Ram's soul. The war to restore dharma had just been declared.
Even as Hanuman's voice gently carries Sita's words to Ram, the air around Mount Prasravana grows heavy with emotion. The jewel pressed against Ram's chest is more than a token. It is her heartbeat, her prayer, her vow of unwavering love. Lakshman watches in reverent silence, Sugriv stands humbled by the nobility of devotion, and the Vanar Sena senses that a storm is forming, not in the heavens, but in Ram's soul. But this is not the storm of vengeance. It is the rising tide of dharma, awakened by truth, emboldened by love, and set in motion by Hanuman's courage. Sita waits, not for rescue, but for righteousness to rise. Ram's grief has found a purpose, and his bow will soon find its mark. And yet the winds whisper still. How will Ram channel this pain into strategy? Will Vanar Sena's faith withstand the coming trial of war? And in the silence before the conch is blown, can the gods themselves hear the promise echo, We are coming? Join us in the next episode of the Ramayana stories of dharma and devotion, where oceans will challenge, alliances will ignite, and destiny will begin its final march. Share this story with those you love, and let it rekindle the flame of courage in your own heart. For though each telling may differ, the soul of the Ramayana is eternal beacon for all who walk the path of righteousness. Until we meet again, may the light of Dharma guide your path, and may your spirit stand tall.